Have you ever looked at someone successful and thought, wow, their life seems so easy? Everything appears to be working out for them. Good career, good income, confident personality, people respect them. And then you look at your own life, the mistakes, the failures, the plans that didn't work out, the opportunities you missed. And you quietly wonder, why does everything have to be so difficult? Honestly, I think most of us have felt this way at some point. I know I have. Because when we are going through a difficult phase, it's easy to feel like life is being unfair. Easy to think everyone else is moving ahead while you are stuck in the same place. But here is something I've noticed. When people share their success stories, they usually tell you about the destination. Very few people tell you about the storms they had to go through to get there. And that reminds me of a story about a young man named Vivek. Now, if you had to meet Vivek at the age of 22, you would have probably thought this guy has his whole life figured out. He was smart, hardworking, good at studies, and most importantly, he believed that if you worked hard, life would reward you. Simple formula: work hard, get results, move forward. And honestly, for many years, that's exactly how life worked for him. School went well, college went well, his teachers liked him, his parents were proud of him. Things were not perfect, but they were smooth. Maybe a little too smooth. Then came his first serious job interview, and Vivek was excited. Not just excited, confident. He spent weeks preparing, practiced answers in front of the mirror, watched interview videos, researched the company, even imagined where he would sit in the office if he got selected. In his mind, the job was almost his already. Then one morning, an email arrived. Thank you for your interest. You know the kind of email? The kind nobody wants to receive? The rejection email. And honestly, it hit him harder than he expected. For the first time in his life, hard work had not produced the result he wanted. That evening, he sat quietly in his room, staring at the ceiling. His mother noticed something was wrong. What happened? Nothing. Now that's another classic answer, isn't it? Nothing, which usually means a lot of things. A few days later, he applied somewhere else, then somewhere else, then somewhere else. Another rejection, and another, and another. At first, he stayed positive. Then he became frustrated. Then he started doubting himself. And honestly, that's the stage where many people give up. Not because they aren't capable, but because disappointment is exhausting. You start questioning everything: your abilities, your choices, your future. And one evening, after yet another rejection, Vivek was sitting on the terrace with his grandfather. The sun was setting. Neither of them were talking much. After a few minutes, his grandfather asked, "You're carrying something heavy these days, aren't you?" Vivek laughed softly, carrying disappointment. His grandfather nodded. Then he said something Vivek would remember for the rest of his life. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Vivek looked at him. What does that mean? His grandfather smiled. If the sea is always calm, the sailor never learns anything. He never learns patience. He never learns courage. He never learns how to handle storms. Anyone can sail when the weather is perfect. The real learning happens when things go wrong. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Then his grandfather added, "Maybe these rejections are not stopping you. Maybe they are teaching you." And honestly, that sentence changed something inside Vivek. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he started asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" And sometimes that one small shift in thinking changes everything. The next morning, Vivek woke up with the same problems, the same uncertainty, the same rejection emails sitting in his inbox. But something felt slightly different. For the first time, he stopped seeing himself as a victim of bad luck. And that was a turning point. Because when we think life is happening to us, we feel powerless. But when we start asking, "What can I learn from this?" we take some control back. Now, don't get me wrong. Vivek didn't suddenly become positive all the time. There were still difficult days, days when nothing seemed to work, days when his confidence disappeared, days when he watched his friends getting jobs while he remained stuck. And if you've ever gone through something similar, you know how painful that can be. You genuinely feel happy for your friends, but at the same time, a small voice inside asks, "What about me?" One afternoon, he met an old college friend. The friend had recently started a new job, good salary, good company, everything seemed to be falling into place. While talking, the friend casually asked, "How's the job search going?" Now, honestly, that's one of the most uncomfortable questions when things aren't going well. Vivek forced a smile, still trying. The conversation continued, but his mood had already changed. That evening, he returned home feeling defeated. For nearly an hour, he sat in silence. No music, no phone, nothing. And then a thought crossed his mind. What if the problem isn't only bad luck? Now, that question wasn't easy to ask because sometimes it's easier to blame circumstances. But Vivek decided to be brutally honest with himself. He started reviewing his interviews, his communication skills, his confidence level, his answers, everything. And then slowly, he noticed a pattern. He knew the technical work. That wasn't the problem. The problem was how he presented himself. During interviews, he became nervous, spoke too fast, struggled to explain his ideas clearly, and honestly, that realization hurt. But it also gave him something valuable, a direction. Because if you know the problem, you can work on it. So instead of spending all his energy worrying, he started improving, little by little. He watched communication videos, practiced speaking in front of a mirror, recorded himself, joined mock interviews, read books. Now, here is the interesting part. For months, nobody noticed his effort. No applause, no recognition, no success story. Just quiet work. And honestly, most growth happens in that phase, the invisible phase. The phase where nobody sees your struggle, nobody sees your discipline, nobody sees how many times you want to quit. People only see the result later. Months passed, then one day another interview opportunity arrived. This time, Vivek felt different. Not because he was sure he would succeed, but because he knew he had improved. The interview began, questions came, he answered calmly. When he did know something, he admitted it honestly. When he knew something, he explained it confidently. For the first time, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply being himself. A week later, the call came. He got the job, and honestly, he was thrilled. His parents were thrilled. Everyone celebrated. But do you know what surprised him the most? The job offer wasn't the happiest moment. The happiest moment was realizing how much he had changed. Because the person receiving that job offer was not the same person who had received the first rejection. The first Vivek was confident only when things were going well. This Vivek had learned how to keep going when things were not going well. And that's a completely different kind of confidence. Years later, whenever young people asked him for advice, he rarely talked about success. Instead, he talked about failure because failure had taught him patience, failure had taught him resilience, failure had taught him humility, failure had taught him how to get back on his feet. Lessons he might never have learned if everything had gone smoothly. And maybe that's true for all of us. Think about the strongest people you know. Were their lives easy? Probably not. Most strong people have been through storms, disappointments, losses, failures, moments that tested them, and somehow those experiences shaped them. There is an old saying, tough times don't last, tough people do. Becoming tough doesn't mean becoming cold. It means learning how to keep moving forward even when life doesn't go according to plan. So, if you're going through a difficult phase right now, if something isn't working, if you have been rejected, if you are feeling stuck, remember this. The storm you're facing today may be teaching you something the calm days never could. Maybe you're learning patience, maybe you're learning courage, maybe you're discovering strengths you didn't know you had. Because a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, and sometimes the waves you're fighting today are preparing you for the journey ahead. So tell me, my dear listeners, what is one challenge that changed you as a person? What difficult lessons are you grateful for today? And if you could go back and remove every struggle from your life, Would you really want to? Think about it. And I'll see you in the next story. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast.